My name is Herminia, and I am 34 years old. I still remember the smell of cinnamon and roasted turkey filling my mother's house that Thanksgiving morning. I had arrived at 7 just like every year to help her prepare. My hands were covered in flour. My heart was full of hope. And I genuinely believed this would be the year everything felt different. Mom had whispered to me weeks before that she had something special planned for all of us. But the way she looked at me that night with eyes I did not recognize told me I was wrong about everything. Before I share what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If stories about family betrayal and finding your own strength resonate with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you will want to hear how this Thanksgiving dinner changed my entire life. To understand why that night shattered me, you need to know who I am in my family. I am the middle child sandwiched between my older sister Darlene, who is 38, and my younger brother Gregory, who is 29. Growing up, I always felt like I occupied an invisible space. Darlene was the beautiful one, the one my mother dressed up and showed off at every family gathering. Gregory was the baby, the only boy, and everyone said he looked exactly like our father. And me, I was just Herminia, the reliable one, the one who never caused problems, the one everyone forgot to notice. When I was 19 years old, my father died in a car accident. It happened on a rainy Tuesday in October, and nothing was ever the same after that. I was a freshman in college at the time, studying accounting, dreaming about building a career, and eventually starting my own family. But when that phone call came when I heard my mother's voice breaking on the other end of the line, I knew my dreams would have to wait. Darlene was already married and living in another city. She came home for the funeral, stayed for a week, and then returned to her life. She said she had responsibilities, that her husband needed her, that she could not abandon her own household. Gregory was only 14 years old, still in middle school, still a child who needed someone to help him with homework and make sure he ate dinner every night. So I made a choice. I dropped out of college and came home. For the next 3 years, I worked 2 part-time jobs to help my mother pay the mortgage. I cleaned houses in the mornings and waited tables at a diner in the evenings. My hands were always either soapy or greasy, and I fell asleep most nights with my feet aching. But I never complained. I told myself this was temporary, that I was doing what any good daughter would do. I told myself my mother appreciated me even if she never said it out loud. When things finally stabilized, I went back to school. I enrolled in evening classes at the local community college, and 4 years later, I earned my accounting degree. I was 26 years old by then, and I had missed out on the typical college experience. No dorm rooms, no football games, no spring breaks with friends. But I was proud of myself. I had done something that felt impossible, and I had done it while keeping my family together. Throughout all those years, I never stopped showing up for my family. Every single weekend, I drove the 45 minutes to my mother's house to check on her. I mowed her lawn in the summer and shoveled her driveway in the winter. I took her to doctor's appointments and sat with her during every medical test. When the roof started leaking, I was the one who found a contractor and negotiated the price. When her car broke down, I was the one who researched new vehicles and helped her get a fair deal. When Gregory wanted to go to college, I gave him $12,000. I had been saving that money for a down payment on a house, but he was my little brother, and I wanted him to have the opportunities I had lost. I told him it was a gift, not a loan, because I knew he could not afford to pay me back. He hugged me and promised he would make me proud. I believed him. When Darlene went through her first divorce, she called me at 2 a.m. sobbing. Her husband had been cheating on her, and she felt like her whole world was collapsing. I took 2 weeks off work, used all my vacation days, and flew across the country to stay with her. I held her while she cried, helped her pack up her belongings, and drove her to the lawyer's office to file the paperwork. I even gave her $3,000 to cover her security deposit on a new apartment. When she offered to pay me back, I told her not to worry about it. We were sisters. That was what sisters did. But the truth is, my mother never seemed to register any of this. She praised Darlene for being beautiful, for landing wealthy husbands, even if she kept losing them. She praised Gregory for being ambitious, for starting his own company, even though it was struggling. And me, she called me when she needed something fixed or paid for. She expected me to show up, and I always did. But when I arrived, she rarely asked how I was doing. She rarely looked me in the eyes and told me she was proud. 6 months before that Thanksgiving, I discovered that my mother was in serious financial trouble. She had accumulated $15,000 in credit card debt, and the collectors were starting to call. She was too embarrassed to tell anyone, but I noticed the stacks of unopened envelopes on her kitchen table, and I saw the fear in her eyes when the phone rang. So I did what I always did. I took care of it. I withdrew $15,000 from my savings account and paid off her debt. I told her it was our secret, that she did not need to tell Darlene or Gregory, that I just wanted her to have peace of mind. She thanked me quickly, the way you might thank a stranger who held a door open for you. And then she changed the subject. I convinced myself that this was simply how my mother showed love. She was not expressive, not warm, but she trusted me. She relied on me. That had to mean something. I held on to that belief like a lifeline, never imagining that she could be capable of what happened next. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and crisp, with frost coating the grass and a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. I woke up at 5:30, unable to sleep, and spent an hour choosing my outfit. I wanted to look nice, to feel put together, even though I knew I would spend most of the day in the kitchen. I settled on a burgundy sweater dress that I had bought on sale the month before. It made me feel confident, almost pretty. I arrived at my mother's house just before 7, carrying bags filled with ingredients for my sweet potato casserole. It was my grandmother's recipe, the same one she had taught me when I was 12 years old, and making it always felt like keeping a piece of her alive. The house smelled like coffee and butter, and for a moment, standing in the kitchen doorway, I felt genuinely happy. My mother was already awake, moving around the kitchen in her bathrobe. She nodded at me when I came in, but did not stop to give me a hug. I told myself she was distracted, that there was too much to do, that she would warm up once the chaos settled down. I started unpacking my groceries and asking her where she wanted me to set up my workstation. Over the next several hours, I did everything. I peeled sweet potatoes until my fingers cramped. I chopped onions and celery for the stuffing. I set the dining room table for 12 people, carefully arranging the china plates and cloth napkins that had belonged to my grandmother. I dusted the living room, fluffed the throw pillows, and made sure there were fresh towels in the bathroom. My mother supervised but did not help. She kept disappearing into her bedroom, and once when I passed by her door, I saw several large shopping bags that I did not recognize. Wrapped presents were visible inside them, with beautiful bows and shiny paper. I smiled to myself, thinking that this year, my mother had really gone all out. Around 2 in the afternoon, the guests started arriving. Darlene was first sweeping through the door in a cloud of expensive perfume. She was wearing a designer dress that must have cost $1,000, and on her arm was her new husband, Kevin. They had gotten married 8 months earlier, a lavish ceremony at a country club that I had helped pay for, even though Darlene never acknowledged my contribution. Behind them came Darlene's 2 children from her first marriage, Madison, who was 16 and sullen, and Tyler, who was 13 and glued to his phone. Gregory arrived next, looking tired but happy. His wife Stephanie walked beside him, carrying their baby daughter Emma, who was 11 months old, and had the most adorable, chubby cheeks I had ever seen. I reached out to hold Emma, and Stephanie handed her over with a grateful smile. For a few minutes, bouncing that baby in my arms, I forgot about everything else. My mother greeted everyone with enormous hugs and exclamations of delight. She complimented Darlene's dress, asked Kevin about his job, cooed over Emma until the baby giggled. When Gregory mentioned that his startup was finally gaining some traction, my mother beamed with pride and told everyone within earshot that her son was going to be the next big tech mogul. I stood in the corner of the living room, Emma still in my arms, waiting for my mother to notice me. She finally looked my way when she needed something. "Herminia, did you finish the casserole? We are running behind schedule." I nodded and handed Emma back to Stephanie, then retreated to the kitchen to put the finishing touches on my dish. From the other room, I could hear everyone laughing and talking, could hear my mother's voice rising above the rest. I told myself it was fine. I was used to this. I was the helper, the worker, the one who made things happen behind the scenes. It did not mean my mother loved me less. It just meant she needed me in a different way. Dinner itself was beautiful. The turkey was golden and glistening, surrounded by platters of stuffing mashed potatoes, green beans, and of course my sweet potato casserole. Everyone took their seats around the table, and my mother stood at the head to say grace. I bowed my head and listened to her words thanking God for family, for health, for another year together. My heart felt full despite the small hurts of the day. The meal passed pleasantly enough. Conversations flowed around me, and I contributed when I could, though no one seemed particularly interested in what I had to say. At one point, I mentioned that I had just received a promotion at work. I was now a senior accountant, a position I had worked toward for years. My mother said, "Oh, that is nice," without looking up from her plate, and then asked Kevin to tell her more about his latest business deal. Across the table, Stephanie caught my eye with a sympathetic look. She had been part of the family long enough to notice the patterns, even if she never said anything. After dinner, when the plates had been cleared and the desserts brought out, my mother stood up again. This time she had a different kind of announcement to make. "I have a surprise for everyone," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This year I wanted to do something special. I have gifts for all of you." The room erupted in delighted murmurs. Madison actually looked up from her phone, and Tyler stopped drumming his fingers on the table. Even Kevin, who usually seemed bored by family gatherings, leaned forward with interest. My mother disappeared into her bedroom and returned with an armful of beautifully wrapped packages. She set them down on the coffee table, and everyone gathered around like children on Christmas morning. I moved to join them, my heart lifting with anticipation. I had no expectations of anything extravagant, but the simple fact that my mother had planned something like this felt meaningful. Maybe this was her way of showing appreciation, of acknowledging all the years I had spent putting the family first. I had no idea what was about to happen. My mother picked up the first package and handed it to Darlene with a flourish. My sister tore off the wrapping paper with theatrical enthusiasm. And when she opened the velvet box inside, she actually gasped. It was a necklace, a pendant surrounded by what looked like diamonds hanging from a delicate gold chain. Even from across the room, I could see that it was expensive. Really expensive. $5,000 at least, maybe more. "Mom, this is stunning," Darlene breathed, holding it up to the light. "Where did you find this?" "I have been saving for years," my mother said proudly. "I wanted my girls to have something beautiful." I noticed she said girls plural, and my heart lifted again. Maybe my gift would be something similar, something equally thoughtful. I waited watching as Darlene clasped the necklace around her neck and admired her reflection in the window. Next, my mother turned to Kevin. She handed him a box that was heavier than Darlene's, and when he opened it, I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. It was a watch. Not just any watch, but a vintage Rolex with a gold face and a leather band that I recognized immediately. It had belonged to my father. I remembered the day my father had shown me that watch. I was 15 years old, and he had just finished teaching me how to change a watch battery. "Someday," he had said, "this will be yours. You are the only one who cares about these things, Herminia. You understand how they work?" I had treasured that promise, had looked forward to the day when I would wear his watch and feel connected to him again. And now my mother was giving it to Kevin, a man who had been in our family for less than a year, a man my father had never even met. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. My throat felt like it was filled with sand. Kevin was already sliding the watch onto his wrist, admiring it, saying something about how he had always wanted a Rolex. My mother was beaming at him, telling him that he was like the son she never had. I glanced at Gregory, but he was busy helping Stephanie with the baby and did not seem to notice. The gift-giving continued. Madison received a brand new laptop for college, sleek and silver, with all the latest specifications. Tyler got a PlayStation 5, along with a stack of games that probably cost several $100s altogether. Gregory was handed an envelope, and when he opened it, his eyes went wide. "Mom, this is $20,000. For your startup," my mother said, patting his cheek affectionately. "I believe in you, sweetheart. I know you are going to do big things." $20,000. I felt dizzy. 6 months ago, my mother could not pay her credit card bills. I had given her $15,000 of my own money I had been saving for years, money that represented hundreds of hours of overtime and countless sacrifice pleasures. And now, she was giving Gregory $20,000 like it was nothing. Where had that money come from? Had she taken loans? Had she been hiding assets all along? Or a darker thought whispered in my mind, had she simply used the money I gave her to fund this generosity toward everyone else? Stephanie received a Chanel handbag, the kind that cost several $1,000s, and came with its own dust cover. Baby Emma received a savings bond for $10,000 to be held in trust until she turned 18. My mother announced each gift with pride, accepting hugs and tears of gratitude from everyone. And then the gifts were done. I sat there on the edge of the couch, my hands folded in my lap, waiting. Surely there was something else. Surely my mother had not forgotten me. Maybe she was saving my gift for last, something extra special, something she wanted to present privately. I looked at the coffee table, now littered with torn wrapping paper and empty boxes, and I did not see anything with my name on it. The silence stretched. People began to notice. Stephanie looked at me, then at my mother, her brow furrowed with confusion. Even Madison and Tyler seemed to sense that something was wrong. The festive atmosphere in the room began to curdle. Finally, I forced myself to speak. My voice came out smaller than I intended, almost like a child's. "Mom, is there something for me?" My mother turned to look at me. Her expression was not embarrassed or apologetic. It was cold. It was the kind of look you might give a stranger who had asked you for spare change. "Herminia," she said slowly, "you do not deserve a gift." The words hung in the air like a physical blow. I heard Darlene inhale sharply. I saw Gregory freeze with his check still in his hand. Even Kevin looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "What?" I managed to whisper. "You heard me." My mother's voice was steady, almost calm. "Do you think I do not see what you are doing? You help me, you give me money, you show up every weekend, but it is all just a way to control me, to make me feel like I owe you, to make yourself look better than your sister and brother." I felt like the room was spinning. "Mom, that is not true. I help you because I love you." "No." She shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You help me because you want everyone to see how wonderful Herminia is, how selfless, how devoted. Meanwhile, you are keeping score of every single thing you do, waiting for the day when you can throw it all back in our faces. I have never thrown anything in your face. I have never asked for anything in return." Darlene told me all about it. My mother continued as if I had not spoken. "She told me how you lord your money over her, how you make her feel guilty for accepting help. Gregory told me the same thing. You make them both feel small, Herminia. You make them feel like they can never measure up to your saintly self-sacrifice." I turned to look at my siblings, desperate for them to deny it, to tell my mother that she had misunderstood. But Darlene was examining her new necklace, as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world, and Gregory was staring at the floor, unable or unwilling to meet my eyes. That was the moment my heart truly broke. Not because of my mother's words, though they were devastating, but because my own brother and sister, the people I had sacrificed so much for, were refusing to defend me. The silence that followed my mother's accusations felt like drowning. I sat there on that couch surrounded by my family, and I had never felt more alone in my entire life. The room that had seemed so warm and festive just moments ago now felt like a courtroom, and I was the defendant facing charges I did not understand. I turned to Darlene first, because she was my older sister, because I had always looked up to her despite everything, because part of me still believed she would protect me. "Darlene," I said quietly, "tell Mom the truth. When have I ever made you feel guilty? When have I ever asked you to repay me for anything?" Darlene finally looked up from her necklace. Her expression was not sympathetic. It was defensive, almost hostile. "Actually, Mom is right," she said slowly. "You do have this whole martyr complex, Herminia. You gave me money when I was going through my divorce, and sure, you said it was a gift, but the way you said it made me feel so small, like you were better than me because you had savings and I did not." I stared at her in disbelief. "Darlene, you called me at 2 a.m. crying. You said you had nowhere to go. I flew across the country to help you. I gave you that money because I wanted you to be okay." See, that is exactly what I mean. Darlene's voice was rising now, taking on an edge of self-righteous anger. "You always have to remind everyone of what you did. You flew across the country. You gave me money. You sacrificed so much. It is exhausting, Herminia. It is exhausting being your sister." I felt like I had been slapped. I had never not once reminded Darlene of what I had done for her. I had never brought it up, never hinted that she owed me, never made her feel obligated. She had been the one who occasionally mentioned it, usually to apologize for not being able to pay me back. And now she was twisting that into some kind of manipulation on my part. Before I could respond, my mother spoke again. "And it is not just Darlene. Gregory feels the same way." I turned to my brother, my baby brother, the boy I had helped raise when our father died. Gregory was a grown man, now 30 years old, with a wife and a baby and a company of his own. But in that moment, he looked like a teenager again, hunched and uncomfortable, avoiding responsibility. "Gregory," I said softly, "is that true?" He mumbled something without looking up. "I cannot hear you." I said, he sighed heavily, "Herminia, you do sometimes. I mean, you helped me a lot, and I appreciate it, I really do. But you can be kind of controlling. You always have opinions about how I should run my business, how Stephanie and I should raise Emma. It feels like you think you know better than everyone else just because you helped us out." I was speechless. I had never once criticized his business decisions. I had never told him how to raise his daughter. When he asked me for advice, I gave it, and when he did not ask, I stayed silent. The only opinions I shared were words of encouragement, telling him I was proud of him, telling him I believed in his dreams. And now, he was calling me controlling. "Gregory, I have never told you what to do," I said carefully. "I offer support when you ask for it. That is all I have ever done." But he just shook his head, still not meeting my eyes. "That is not how it feels." That was when I realized something terrible. My mother had been feeding on lies. Darlene and Gregory had been telling her stories, twisting the truth, painting me as some kind of manipulative villain. And my mother, who had always been quick to believe the worst about me, had accepted every word without question. "Mom," I said, turning back to her, "whatever they have told you, it is not true. I have never tried to control anyone. I have only tried to help." "Help?" My mother laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? You paid off my credit card debt without asking my permission. You just swooped in like you always do, making decisions for me, making me feel like I cannot take care of myself." "You were going to lose your house," I said quietly. "The collectors were calling every day. You were too scared to open your own mail. I was trying to help you. You were trying to humiliate me, to prove that you are the responsible one, and I am just a helpless old woman who cannot manage her own affairs." There was nothing I could say. Every word I spoke was being twisted, reinterpreted through a lens of suspicion and resentment. I looked around the room at the faces of my family, searching for a single ally, a single person who might speak up on my behalf. Kevin was examining his new Rolex with studied indifference. Madison and Tyler had retreated to the corner, both absorbed in their phones. Stephanie was holding Emma and looking deeply uncomfortable, but she did not speak. She was part of this family by marriage, and she knew better than to get involved. Darlene leaned forward, and I knew from her expression that she was not finished. You know what, Herminia? Maybe the reason you help everyone so much is because you have nothing else going for you. You are 34 years old, you are single, you rent an apartment, you have no children. The only thing you have is this family, and you try to buy your way in because deep down, you know we do not really need you. The words hit me like bullets, each one finding a vital organ. I had been single for 4 months since my boyfriend Marcus and I had broken up. I did rent an apartment because I had spent my savings helping other people, instead of building equity for myself. And no, I did not have children, partly because I had spent my 20s raising my brother and supporting my mother, instead of building a life of my own. Gregory spoke again, still mumbling. Maybe you should just take some time to think about things, Herminia. Maybe Mom has a point. That was when I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I forced them to hold me. I picked up my purse from the floor where I had set it hours ago when I arrived at this house full of hope and foolish expectations. I reached for my coat hanging by the door. Where are you going? My mother demanded. I looked at her for a long moment. I looked at the woman who had raised me, who I had sacrificed 15 years of my life to support. I looked at the coldness in her eyes and the cruel twist of her mouth, and I did not recognize her. I am leaving, I said quietly. I love you, Mom. I love all of you. But I cannot stay here and listen to this anymore. Oh, of course, Darlene said sarcastically. Run away like you always do. Play the victim. I did not respond. I could not. If I opened my mouth again, I was going to start screaming or crying, and I refused to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I walked to the door, opened it, and stepped out into the cold November night. The last thing I heard before the door closed behind me was my mother's voice, sharp and dismissive. Let her go. She will come crawling back when she realizes she has no one else. I drove home in the darkness, tears streaming down my face, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The radio was playing some cheerful holiday song, and I jabbed the button to turn it off. I did not want cheer. I did not want comfort. I wanted to understand how my entire life had just fallen apart in the space of an hour. The days that followed Thanksgiving were the darkest I had ever experienced. I called in sick to work on Friday, unable to face my colleagues with swollen eyes and a broken heart. I spent the day lying in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying my mother's words over and over in my mind. I did not eat. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Darlene calling me pathetic, heard Gregory mumbling his agreement, heard my mother telling me I did not deserve a place in my own family. On Saturday, I managed to drag myself to the couch, but that was the extent of my progress. I sat there wrapped in a blanket, watching nothing, thinking nothing, feeling like a hollow shell of the person I used to be. My phone sat on the coffee table silent. Not a single call, not a single text. Not one member of my family had reached out to check on me, to apologize, to even ask if I had made it home safely. On Sunday morning, someone knocked on my door. For one wild moment, my heart leaped, thinking it might be Gregory or my mother coming to say they were sorry, that they had not meant any of it. But when I opened the door, it was my best friend Jolene, holding a bag of groceries and wearing an expression of fierce determination. I called your office, she said, pushing past me into the apartment. They said you have been out sick since Thursday. I knew something was wrong. Sit down and tell me everything. Jolene had been my friend since college, back when I was taking night classes and working 2 jobs. She was the one person who had seen me at my lowest, who had encouraged me to keep going when I wanted to quit. She knew my family knew the patterns of dysfunction that I had always tried to minimize or explain away. When I finished telling her what had happened at Thanksgiving, her face was tight with anger. "Herminia," she said slowly, "I am going to say something, and I need you to really hear me. You have been used. For 15 years, your family has been taking advantage of you, and you have been too kind and too loyal to see it." "That is not true," I said automatically. "They love me. They just do not know how to show it." "When was the last time any of them called you just to ask how you were doing? Not to ask for money, not to ask for help, just to hear your voice." I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it again. I could not remember. Every phone call from my mother was about a problem she needed me to solve. Every text from Darlene was asking for advice or favors. Gregory only reached out when he needed something related to his business. "When was the last time any of them came to visit you here?" Jolene pressed on. "When was the last time they invited you somewhere that was not a family obligation, where they expected you to cook or clean or pay for something?" Again, I had no answer. My mother had been to my apartment exactly twice in 10 years, both times briefly, and both times because she needed a ride somewhere. Darlene had never visited at all. Gregory had stopped by once years ago to pick up some money I was lending him. Jolene took my hands in hers. "Sweetheart, I have watched you give and give and give to these people for as long as I have known you. And what have they given you in return? Criticism, coldness, and now this. They stood there while your mother humiliated you, and they did not say a single word in your defense. That is not love. That is not family. That is abuse." I started crying then, really crying, the kind of deep, racking sobs that come from somewhere primal. Jolene held me and let me cry, not trying to fix anything, just being present. When I finally calmed down, she made me a cup of tea and suggested something I had never considered. "Write it down," she said. "Write down everything you have done for them over the past 15 years. Every dollar you gave, every hour you spent, every sacrifice you made. And then look at that list and ask yourself what they have done for you." Over the next few days, I followed her advice. I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and a calculator, and I started documenting. The numbers were staggering. I had given my family more than $80,000 over 15 years, not including the value of my time and labor. I had used virtually all of my vacation days to take care of family emergencies. I had missed job opportunities because I could not relocate away from my mother. I had ended relationships because my partners felt like they would always come second to my family obligations. And what had I received? I received phone calls when something was broken. I received gratitude that lasted only until the next crisis. I received a seat at holiday tables where I was expected to work, not celebrate. And when I finally needed my family to stand by me, they turned on me instead. On Wednesday, I made an appointment with a therapist. Her name was Dr. Alvarado, and within our first session, she introduced me to concepts that changed my entire understanding of my life. She talked about family scapegoating, about how dysfunctional families often choose one member to bear the blame for everyone else's problems. She talked about people pleasers, about how some of us are trained from childhood to prioritize other people's needs over our own. She talked about boundaries, a word I had heard before, but never truly understood. Your family has been using you as their scapegoat for years, Dr. Alvarado explained gently. When anything goes wrong, you are the one they blame. When they need something, you are the one they call. But when you need something, they are nowhere to be found. This dynamic did not happen by accident. It was created over time, through patterns of behavior that everyone in your family participated in, whether they realized it or not. I left that first session feeling raw and exposed, like someone had ripped off a bandage I had been wearing for decades. But underneath the pain, there was something else. Clarity. For the first time, I could see my family relationships for what they truly were, not what I had always hoped they would be. That night, I made a decision. I was not going to call my mother. I was not going to text my siblings. I was not going to apologize or try to make peace or pretend that everything was fine. For once in my life, I was going to put myself first. 1 week after Thanksgiving, I was sitting in my living room reading a book that Dr. Alvarado had recommended. It was about healing from narcissistic family dynamics, and every page felt like it had been written specifically about my life. The sun was setting outside my window, casting long shadows across the floor, and I was wrapped in a soft blanket with a cup of chamomile tea beside me. For the first time in days, I felt something approaching peace. Then my phone rang. It was Stephanie. I hesitated before answering. I had no quarrel with my sister-in-law, but I also did not want to hear any more justifications or explanations for what had happened. Still, something made me pick up the phone. "Herminia," Stephanie said quickly before I could speak. "Please do not hang up. I need to tell you something." Her voice was strange, tight with emotion. Against my better judgment, I listened. "First of all, I am so sorry for not speaking up at Thanksgiving. I should have defended you. I was just so shocked by what was happening, and I did not know what to say, and I was scared of your mother. But that is no excuse. You deserve someone in that room standing up for you, and I failed you. I am truly sorry." I felt my throat tighten. "Thank you for saying that, Stephanie. It means more than you know." "There is more." She took a deep breath. "After you left, a lot of things started coming out. Kevin noticed how viciously Darlene was talking about you even after you were gone. It made him uncomfortable. He started paying closer attention to her, to the way she talks about people, the way she treats people. And he found some things." "What kind of things?" "He looked at her phone. I know that sounds bad, but he had a feeling something was wrong, and he was right. Herminia Darlene has been having an affair with someone from her gym. She's been lying to Kevin for months. But more than that, he saw her text messages with your mother. She's been feeding your mom lies about you for years, telling her that you talk badly about her behind her back, telling her that you resent helping the family, telling her that you think you are better than everyone else. None of it was true, but your mother believed every word." I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what I was hearing. "There is more," Stephanie continued. "Gregory saw the messages too. When he realized what Darlene had been doing, he finally started putting things together. He remembered all the times you helped him without asking for anything in return. He remembered how you never once criticized his choices or made him feel small. And he realized that everything he accused you of at Thanksgiving was wrong. It was all things Darlene had convinced him to believe." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. "Because Kevin is filing for divorce. He confronted Darlene about the affair, and she did not even try to deny it. She just said he was overreacting, that it did not mean anything. They had a huge fight, and Kevin told her he is done. He said he cannot be married to someone who would treat her own sister the way she treated you." I did not know what to feel. Part of me felt vindicated knowing that the truth was finally coming out, but another part of me just felt sad. Sad for the family I had always wanted, the family I would never have. "And your mother?" I asked. Stephanie was quiet for a moment. "Your mother is devastated. Not about the divorce, not really, but about what she did to you. When Gregory showed her the proof of what Darlene had been saying, when he showed her the text messages and explained how Darlene had been manipulating everyone, your mother just broke down. She has been crying for days. She keeps saying she drove away the only child who truly loved her." "That does not change what happened," I said softly. "That does not undo the things she said to me. I know, and she knows that too. I think that is why it is hitting her so hard. She cannot take it back. She cannot undo it. She has to live with what she did." After we hung up, I sat alone in the growing darkness, thinking about everything Stephanie had told me. For 15 years, I had been fighting an invisible enemy. Darlene had been poisoning my mother against me, and I never knew. Every criticism, every cold look, every dismissal, it had all been fed by lies. I could not see or defend against. I should have felt angry. Maybe I did somewhere deep down. But mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of fighting, tired of trying to prove myself, tired of loving people who did not love me back. Gregory called me the next day. His voice was thick with tears. "Herminia, I am so sorry. I do not even know how to begin to apologize for what I did. You have been nothing but good to me my entire life, and I betrayed you. I believed lies about you instead of trusting what I knew in my heart to be true. I am your brother, and I should have protected you. And instead, I just sat there while Mom tore you apart. I will never forgive myself for that." "Gregory," I said slowly, "I appreciate you calling. I really do. But I am not ready to just pretend everything is okay. You heard Mom say terrible things about me and you agreed with her. You looked me in the eye and called me controlling. That is going to take time to heal." I know it will. And I will do whatever it takes, however long it takes to earn back your trust. You are my sister. You practically raised me after Dad died. I owe you everything, and I have been too much of a coward to admit that. We talked for a while longer. He told me more about what had happened after I left, about the arguments and revelations about Darlene's crumbling marriage and my mother's guilt. By the time we hung up, I felt cautiously hopeful. Not that everything would be fixed, but that maybe someday my relationship with my brother could be repaired. My mother called later that same day. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "Herminia, my baby, I am so sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I believed Darlene. I believed everything she said, and I should have known better. You are my daughter. I know who you are. I know you would never do the things she said. And I stood there and I hurt you anyway. I threw away the only child who ever truly put me first." "Mom," I said, "I need to ask you something. The money you gave everyone at Thanksgiving, where did that come from?" There was a long pause. "It came from the money you gave me, the $15,000 you used to pay off my debt. I should have put it toward my bills, but Darlene convinced me that I deserved to treat myself, that I had earned it. And she convinced me to buy her things, expensive things I could not afford. I am so ashamed, Herminia. I took your gift, and I used it to buy love from people who were already manipulating me." I closed my eyes. It was worse than I had imagined. My own money earned through years of hard work and careful saving had been used to buy diamonds for my sister and fund my brother's business. My sacrifice had been twisted into a weapon against me. "I do not know what to say, Mom. You do not have to say anything. I just want you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did, and I understand why you left, and I understand if you never want to speak to me again. But I love you, Herminia. I have always loved you, even when I was too blind to show it." Exactly 1 week after Thanksgiving, I was home alone when I heard a knock at my door. It was evening, the sky already dark outside, and I was not expecting anyone. I set down my book and walked slowly to the entrance, my heart beating faster than I wanted to admit. When I opened the door, I found all three of them standing there. My mother, my sister, my brother. They were huddled together on my doorstep, and every single one of them was crying. My mother's eyes were swollen and red. Darlene looked smaller than I had ever seen her, stripped of her usual confidence. Gregory was openly weeping, tears running down his cheeks. In my mother's trembling hands was a small velvet box. "Herminia," she whispered, "please, can we come in? Can we talk?" I did not move. I stood in the doorway looking at these three people who had broken my heart a week ago, and I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness, anger, love, fear, all of them swirling together, none of them dominant. "I think you should say what you need to say right here," I said quietly. My mother nodded, accepting this. She did not argue or try to push past me. She simply stood there on my doorstep, clutching that velvet box, and began to speak. I was wrong. I was so terribly, unforgivably wrong. I believed lies about you because it was easier than facing the truth about my own failures as a mother. You sacrificed everything for this family, and instead of thanking you, I punished you for it. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I am begging for it anyway. She opened the velvet box. Inside was a ring I recognized immediately. It had belonged to my grandmother, a delicate gold band with a small sapphire that matched the color of her eyes. It was the most precious piece of jewelry in our family, passed down through generations. "This should have been yours all along," my mother said. "You are the one who inherited her strength, her kindness, her ability to love without conditions. I should have given this to you years ago. I should have told you every day how proud I am to be your mother. Instead, I let Darlene convince me that you were the enemy. I will spend the rest of my life regretting that." I looked at the ring, but did not reach for it. Then I looked at Darlene. My sister's face was pale, her expensive makeup streaked with tears. She looked like someone who had been stripped of all her armor, left standing naked and defenseless. "Herminia," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not deserve it. I spent years poisoning Mom against you because I was jealous. Jealous that you were stronger than me. Jealous that you did not need a husband to feel valuable. Jealous that no matter how hard I tried to be the perfect daughter, you were always the one people actually depended on. I tried to destroy you because I could not stand that you were better than me. And I almost succeeded. I am so sorry." I heard her words, but I did not respond. Not yet. I turned to Gregory. My brother stepped forward, his eyes red and swollen. "Chi," he said, using the Vietnamese word for older sister, that he had not called me since we were children. "You raised me. When Dad died, you became my parent. You gave up your dreams so I could have mine. And I repaid you by sitting there in silence while Mom hurt you. I was a coward. I was afraid of losing my place in the family, afraid of losing the money and the approval. And so I let them hurt you. I will never forgive myself, but I am asking you to give me a chance to make it right." The four of us stood there in the cold, my family on the doorstep, and me in the doorway, a threshold between the past and whatever came next. I took a deep breath. "I appreciate you coming here," I said slowly. "I appreciate you admitting what you did. But I need you to understand something. Forgiveness is not a switch I can flip. You cannot just show up with tears and apologies and expect everything to be okay. I spent 15 years giving everything I had to this family, and in return, I was humiliated in front of everyone I love. That is not something I can just forget." "We know," my mother said quickly. "We know that. We are not asking you to forget. We are just asking for a chance to prove that we can be better, a chance to earn back your trust." I looked at each of them in turn. My mother, who had chosen to believe lies instead of seeing the truth standing right in front of her. My sister, who had spent years sabotaging me out of jealousy. My brother, who had been too weak to defend me when I needed him most. But I also saw something else. Regret. Genuine, agonizing regret. "I am not going to pretend everything is fine," I said finally. "I am not going to go back to being the person who drops everything whenever you need me, who shows up every weekend, who gives you money I cannot afford. That person does not exist anymore. If we are going to have any kind of relationship going forward, it has to be different. It has to be based on mutual respect, not just mutual convenience." "Whatever you need," Gregory said immediately. "Whatever boundaries you set, we will respect them. We will do the work. We will prove to you that we can change." My mother held out the velvet box again. "Please take this. Not as an apology, because no object could ever make up for what I did. Take it because it belongs to you. Take it because your grandmother would have wanted you to have it. Slowly, I reached out and took the box. The ring inside glinted in the porch light, beautiful and precious, and somehow smaller than I remembered. "Thank you," I said quietly. I did not invite them in. I was not ready for that, not yet. But I did not slam the door in their faces either. Instead, I stood there and told them what I needed from them. Time, space, proof through actions, not just words. The chance to rebuild something new instead of trying to salvage something that was always broken. They agreed to everything. They left that night with more tears and more promises, and I closed the door behind them and stood alone in my apartment holding my grandmother's ring. Over the months that followed, things slowly began to change. Gregory started calling me just to talk, not to ask for anything. My mother began sending me cards and letters, sharing memories of my father, acknowledging how much I had sacrificed after his death. Even Darlene reached out occasionally, though our relationship remained the most strained. She was going through her third divorce, forced to face the consequences of her choices, and she was finally starting to understand what it meant to lose everything. I continued seeing Dr. Alvarado. I started building a life that centered on my own needs and desires instead of everyone else's. I got promoted again at work. I made new friends. I even started dating someone, a kind man named Derek, who treated me with respect and did not expect me to sacrifice myself for his happiness. And every night before I went to sleep, I looked at my grandmother's ring sitting on my nightstand and reminded myself of the lesson I had learned. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you will hurt you. Sometimes they will take and never give back. Sometimes they will blame you for their own failures and punish you for your own virtues. But that does not mean you are broken. That does not mean you deserve it. It just means you have to learn to love yourself enough to set boundaries, to demand respect, to walk away from situations that diminish you. Forgiving my family did not happen overnight. It is still happening even now, a slow process of rebuilding trust, one small action at a time. But I have learned that forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. It means choosing to release the anger so that it does not poison your own heart. It means giving people the chance to change while protecting yourself in case they do not. That Thanksgiving was the worst night of my life, but it was also the night that set me free. It forced me to see my family clearly, to stop making excuses for their behavior, to finally prioritize my own well-being. And in that way, as painful as it was also a gift. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You deserve to be loved properly.